She'd danced with a stranger to get away from her controlling ex, never imagining he was a mafia boss. Now, dangerous people thought she was important to him, and the only person who could protect her was the very same man who'd accidentally put a target on her back. He wouldn't let her face this alone. The notification illuminated Alina's phone screen at 11:47 p.m. I can see her bedroom light is still on. Why aren't you sleeping? Her blood ran cold. Ethan wasn't supposed to know where she lived anymore. She'd moved 3 weeks ago, told nobody, paid cash for the deposit on this cramped studio in Brooklyn. Yet somehow, impossibly, he'd found her again. Alina's hands trembled as she frantically stuffed clothes into her backpack. Jeans, 2 shirts, her mother's silver bracelet, the emergency cash she'd been saving in a coffee tin. $900. Enough to disappear for a few weeks if she was careful. Another text message arrived. Alina, don't ignore me. I just want to talk. She recognized that tone instantly. The fake gentleness that always preceded the storm. 3 years with Ethan had taught her to read the warning signs all too well. The way his voice became sickeningly soft right before he exploded. How just talking always devolved into hours of him circling her, blocking doorways, forcing her to explain herself until she forgot what the truth even sounded like. The final text made her stomach drop into her shoes. I'm outside. Alina rushed to the window and carefully pulled back the edge of the curtain. There, his silver Lexus was parked across the street under a flickering, broken streetlight. Engine running, waiting. She grabbed her backpack and ran. The stairwell amplified her footsteps as she flew down 5 flights, skipping the front entrance and heading straight for the back alley exit she'd scouted the very day she moved in. Always have 2 ways out. That's what the women's shelter counselor had drilled into her. The biting November air stung her face as she burst onto the street. She could hear music thumping from somewhere nearby. The clubs and bars that lined this particular neighborhood stayed open until dawn. People meant safety. Crowds meant witnesses. Behind her, a car door slammed shut. Alina, wait! Ethan's voice sliced through the night. She didn't turn around, didn't slow down. She ran toward the noise, toward the lights, toward anywhere that wasn't here. Her sneakers pounded the pavement as she weaved between late-night pedestrians, college kids stumbling home, couples holding hands, a homeless man who shouted something she didn't catch. Her lungs burned. The backpack slammed against her spine with each stride. Alina, stop. You're being crazy. His footsteps were getting closer. He was faster than her always had been. She desperately needed somewhere to hide, somewhere he couldn't follow. That's when she saw it. A neon sign half hidden beneath a fire escape. The underground. Below it, stairs descended into what looked like a basement entrance. Velvet ropes guided a short line of people inside. The base was so heavy she could feel it vibrating in her chest. She didn't hesitate for a moment. Alina pushed past the couple at the front of the line, ignoring the bouncer's indignant protest, and plunged into the darkness beyond the door. The club hit her like a physical force. Strobe lights slicing through artificial fog, bodies pressed together on a sunken dance floor, the smell of sweat and spilled liquor, and something chemical sweet she couldn't quite identify. The music was so loud it drowned out her own heartbeat. She pushed deeper into the crowd, using the dancers as cover, her eyes frantically scanning for another exit, a bathroom, anywhere to hide. The club was far bigger than it appeared from the outside. Multiple levels connected by metal staircases, shadowy alcoves with worn velvet couches, a bar that stretched the entire length of one wall. Hey, you can't just run in here. The bouncer from the door was following her, but the crowd was dense, and she was small enough to slip between people. She needed a new plan, fast. Hiding wouldn't work if Ethan saw the bouncer making a scene. That's when she spotted him. A man was standing near the edge of the dance floor, watching the crowd with the detached stillness of someone who didn't belong there. Tall, broad-shouldered, with dark hair and tattoos that crawled up his neck and disappeared beneath his black t-shirt. He looked dangerous in a way that had nothing to do with Ethan's calculated cruelty. This was something else entirely, something raw and primal. Their eyes met for half a second. Alina made a decision born of pure desperation. She crossed the distance between them in 4 rapid steps and grabbed his arm. His skin was warm, the muscles beneath tense and coiled like a spring. Up close, she could see a faint scar cutting through his left eyebrow and eyes so dark they appeared almost black in the strobing lights. "Please," she said, pitching her voice loud enough for him to hear over the pounding music. "Just pretend we're together. Just for a minute." He didn't ask questions, didn't hesitate even for a split second. His hand found the small of her back and pulled her close enough that she could smell leather and something sharp, almost metallic like gunpowder, close enough that when Ethan's voice rang out behind her, "There you are!" the stranger's body instinctively became a shield between them. "Dance with me," he said, his voice low and rough, a rumble in her ear. And she did. They moved together into the mass of bodies, his hand never leaving her back, guiding her deeper into the crowd. Alina pressed her face against his chest and felt his heartbeat, steady and controlled, nothing like her own frantic pulse. Over his shoulder, she caught fleeting glimpses of Ethan pushing through the dancers, his face red with incandescent anger, searching. The strangers subtly shifted their position, turning her away from Ethan's direct line of sight. They moved together like they'd done this 1,000 times. His hands on her waist, her arms around his neck, swaying to a rhythm that seemed to exist independently of the blaring music. He was protecting her without even knowing why she needed protection. "Thank you," she whispered, though she wasn't sure he could hear her. He leaned down, his lips close to her ear. "Who is he? Someone I need to stay away from." She felt him nod almost imperceptibly. Then, above the music, she heard a commotion. Security guards were descending on Ethan, who was now shouting and pointing. The stranger had somehow signaled them without her even noticing. Within 30 seconds, Ethan was being forcefully escorted toward the exit, his protest swallowed by the booming bass. The song changed. The stranger's hands loosened their grip on her. "He's gone," he said. Alina stepped back, suddenly acutely aware of how close they'd been, how her hands had clutched his shirt. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. You needed help." His eyes studied her face with an unnerving intensity that made her want to look away, but she couldn't. "Are you safe now?" She desperately wanted to say yes, wanted to believe that this was all over, that she could walk out and Ethan would just give up. But she knew better. "I don't know," she admitted, the words barely audible. Something shifted in his expression, a silent decision being made. "Come on," he said, taking her hand. "Let's get you out of here properly." The stranger led Alina through a narrow back corridor she hadn't noticed before, past storage rooms stacked high with liquor boxes and a kitchen that reeked of grease and industrial-strength bleach. They emerged into a different alley than the one she'd entered from, this one wider and better lit. "Wait here a second," he said, stepping away slightly to scan the street. Alina's heart was still racing. She'd escaped for now. But for how long? Ethan had found her apartment. He would undoubtedly find her again. He always did. "Looks clear," the stranger said, returning to her side. "Where are you headed?" "I don't know yet." The truth felt heavy and bitter in her mouth. "I just need to get far away from here." He studied her with those unsettlingly dark eyes. "You don't have somewhere safe to go?" Before she could answer, headlights suddenly swept across the alley entrance. That's his silver Lexus. Ethan had circled the block. "Damn it!" Alina breathed, instinctively backing away. The stranger's entire demeanor changed in an instant. His casualness vanished, replaced by something cold, sharp, and intensely alert. "Stay behind me." Ethan's car screeched to a halt at the alley mouth. The door swung open, and he stepped out, his tie loosened, his hair disheveled from the chaotic scene inside the club. When he saw Alina, his face twisted with that familiar, unsettling mix of wounded hurt and barely contained rage, a combination he wielded like a weapon. "Alina, enough of this drama," Ethan called out, walking toward them. "Let's go home and talk about this like adults." "I don't want to talk to you," she said, her voice sounding far stronger than she actually felt. Leave me alone, Ethan. You don't mean that. He was closer now, completely ignoring the stranger standing beside her. You're confused. It's okay. I forgive you for running off like this. She told you to leave. The stranger stepped forward, deliberately positioning himself directly between them. So leave. Ethan finally looked at him, really looked at him, for the first time. Alina saw the precise moment that recognition flickered across Ethan's face. The color visibly drained from his cheeks. I didn't realize, Ethan stammered, taking an involuntary step backward. Mr. Vega, this is just a misunderstanding. My girlfriend and I had a fight. I'm not your girlfriend, Alina interjected, but both men completely ignored her. She doesn't look like she wants to go with you, Vega said, his voice quiet but carrying an unmistakable edge that made Alina's skin prickle with a sudden, inexplicable sense of unease. Walk away. Ethan's hands clenched into tight fists, but he didn't move any closer. His eyes darted nervously between Vega and Alina, rapidly calculating. She could see him weighing his options, his pride warring against whatever deep-seated fear was now coursing through him. This isn't over, Alina, Ethan said finally, backing slowly toward his car. You can't just run away from us, from what we have. There is no us, she said, the words feeling liberating even as they trembled slightly. Ethan's jaw tightened with barely suppressed fury. He shot Vega one more glance, something bitter and resentful twisting his features, then got into his car and sped off. Alina released a breath she hadn't even realized she'd been holding. Thank you again. I don't know what I would have. You shouldn't have involved me. Vega's voice was sharp now, all of the seeming gentleness from the club completely gone. He was staring down the street where Ethan's car had disappeared, tension radiating off him in palpable waves. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cause trouble. Too late for that. He turned abruptly to face her, and for the first time since they'd met, she felt a genuine surge of fear directed squarely at him. Do you even know who I am? You're Vega. She remembered Ethan saying the name with a distinct note of palpable fear in his voice. Dante Vega. He ran a hand roughly through his dark hair, a gesture that seemed almost more frustrated than anything else. And your ex clearly recognized me. Is that bad? He let out a short, humorless laugh. Bad doesn't even begin to cover it. There were 3 guys across the street watching that entire interaction. Valda's cartel scouts. They're always watching Mendoza territory, constantly looking for weaknesses. He fixed her with a hard, unwavering stare. Ethan backing down like that, me stepping in for you, defending you, they'll instantly think you matter to me, and that makes you valuable. The words took a moment to fully sink in, and when they did, they landed with the force of a physical blow. Valuable? What does that even mean? It means you just painted a giant target on your back, Dante said flatly, his voice devoid of any emotion. The Valdes cartel is currently at war with the organization I work for. They'll undoubtedly see you as leverage, a way to get to me. Alina felt the ground shift and tilt precariously beneath her feet. But I'm nobody. I'm a waitress. I don't have anything to do with any of this. You do now. His expression softened almost imperceptibly, almost apologetic. I'm sorry. If I'd known. He cut himself off abruptly. Doesn't matter now. What's done is done. So what do I do? The fear that had been simmering just below the surface was rapidly turning into something else entirely. A burning anger. I was just trying to escape one nightmare. And now you're telling me I'm trapped in another one? Yeah, Dante said simply, his tone brutally honest. That's exactly what I'm telling you. A car drove slowly past the alley entrance, far too slowly for it to be a coincidence. Dante tracked it intently with his eyes until it finally turned the corner. We need to move, he said, his voice tight. Standing here makes you an easy target. Where are we going? Somewhere safe. Somewhere I can figure out how to fix this mess. He started walking, then paused when she didn't immediately follow. Look, I know this is completely insane, but those guys aren't like your ex. They won't just follow you home and send annoying text messages. They'll take you, hurt you, use you. Your only real chance right now is staying close to someone who can protect you. Alina looked back toward the club, toward the street where Ethan had been lurking, toward the life she'd been so desperately trying to escape. Everything had gone horribly, irrevocably wrong, and it had happened so damn fast. "Do I even have a choice?" she asked quietly, the words barely a whisper. Dante's expression was grim. "You always have a choice, but some choices will get you killed." Dante took her to a 24-hour diner 6 blocks away. The place was all harsh fluorescent lights, cracked vinyl booths, and coffee that tasted suspiciously like burnt rubber. He deliberately chose a corner table that faced the door, providing a clear view of anyone entering, and ordered them both food that neither of them even touched. "Tell me about your ex," Dante said, his eyes constantly scanning the windows. "Everything. Why does it matter?" "Because I need to know what we're dealing with. Is he stupid enough to talk?" Alina wrapped her hands tightly around her coffee mug, desperately seeking warmth. "Ethan works in finance, investment banking, something like that. He's possessive, persistent, controlling. When I tried to leave him the first time, he somehow convinced my landlord to evict me. He got me fired from my job by calling my boss every single day. He's not violently physical exactly, but he never lets go." "Great," Dante muttered under his breath. "A rich stalker with resources. He's not really rich. He just acts like it. Rich enough to live in Manhattan and drive a Lexus." Dante's phone buzzed insistently. He checked it, frowned deeply, and typed something quickly. "That's a problem." "Why?" "Because people like that tend to talk when they're angry. They make calls. They know people who know people. And right now, he's probably very, very angry." He set his phone back down on the table. Alina felt a wave of nausea wash over her. "What does that mean?" Before Dante could answer, his phone rang again. He answered it immediately. "Yeah." She watched his face visibly darken as he listened intently to the person on the other end of the line. "When?" A pause. "How many?" Another pause, even longer. "I understand. No, I'll handle it." He abruptly hung up and looked at her with an expression she couldn't even begin to decipher. "We need to leave now." "What happened?" "You're already on a list." He threw some cash on the table to cover the untouched food and stood up abruptly. "The Valdez cartel has put out the word. Your name, a detailed description, your last known address. They're openly calling you my weak spot." The words felt completely surreal, detached from reality. "But I just met you 2 hours ago." "They don't know that. They just know that I protected you in front of witnesses." He guided her toward the back exit, his hand firmly on her elbow. "In this world, perception is reality." They stepped out into another dark alley. The biting November wind cut right through Alina's thin jacket, making her shiver uncontrollably. "This is completely insane," she said, her voice trembling slightly. "People don't just end up on cartel hit lists because they danced with someone." "You didn't just dance with someone," Dante corrected her, his voice hard and uncompromising. "You danced with me. I'm an enforcer for the Mendoza Syndicate. That means every single move I make gets watched, analyzed, weaponized. The mere fact that I stepped between you and your obsessed ex in public, right in front of Valdez scouts, immediately tells them that you're important. Whether you actually are doesn't even matter." Alina stopped walking abruptly, her feet feeling like they were rooted to the ground. "So what? I just have to accept this? Accept that my entire life is effectively over simply because I asked a stranger for help?" "No." Dante turned to face her, his dark eyes intense. "You accept that your life as you knew it is over. What happens next is still entirely up to you. What are my options, then? Run. Disappear completely, change your name, move across the country, never contact anyone from your old life again." He paused, letting the weight of those words sink in. "Or you stay close to me under my protection until I can somehow neutralize the threat." "And how long would that take? Days? Weeks?" "It depends on how this all plays out." He checked his phone again, his expression unreadable. The Valda cartel leadership is having a meeting tomorrow night. If I can get word to them that you're nobody, that tonight was just a random act, maybe they'll lose interest. But that's only a maybe. And if they don't lose interest? Dante's prolonged silence was answer enough. A police siren wailed somewhere in the distance, the sound oddly mournful in the cold night air. Alina thought about her small studio apartment, her dead-end waitressing job at the local cafe, her best friend, Maya, who she hadn't even talked to in months because Ethan had somehow convinced her that Maya was a bad influence. She thought about her mother's silver bracelet in her backpack and the $900 in emergency cash that was supposed to buy her some measure of freedom. I don't even understand how this has become my life, she whispered, the words barely audible. It's not fair, Dante agreed, his voice surprisingly gentle. But fair simply doesn't exist where I come from. His phone buzzed again insistently. He quickly read the message and then cursed under his breath, a raw, guttural sound that sent a shiver down her spine. What now? Your ex, Dante's expression was downright dangerous now. He's been making calls, asking around about me, about how to get his girlfriend back from some gang member. He looked up at her, his gaze piercing. He's effectively drawing even more attention to you, making you seem even more important than you already do. Can you stop him? I can certainly try. But if he's already been talking to the wrong people. Dante's voice trailed off, the implication hanging heavy in the air between them. The Valda cartel has informants everywhere, street dealers, club promoters, even some corrupt cops. If Ethan's asking questions, word will inevitably get back to them, and it'll only confirm their suspicions that you matter to me, matter enough for some obsessive civilian to be hunting for information. Alina felt the walls closing in around her, suffocating her. She'd finally escaped Ethan's suffocating control only to become a pawn in something infinitely more dangerous, something she couldn't even begin to comprehend. I just wanted to be free, she said, her voice breaking with a desperate sob. Dante's expression softened slightly, a flicker of something that might have been pity crossing his features. I know, and I'm honestly sorry you grabbed my arm instead of someone else's that night. But we are where we are now. He held out his hand to her, palm up. It was a large, calloused hand, the knuckles scarred, a tattoo of a serpent winding menacingly around his wrist, the hand of someone who undoubtedly lived in a world of violence. But it was also the hand that had protected her twice tonight, when he had absolutely no reason to do so. Alina thought about Ethan's persistent text messages, his ominous car parked outside her window, 3 long years of suffocating control. Then she thought about the faceless cartel members who were now hunting her through the city, treating her like some kind of prize. She reached out and took Dante's hand, her fingers wrapping around his. Don't make me regret this, she said, the words barely a whisper. I'll try not to. Dante led her to a sleek black SUV parked 2 streets over. The interior smelled distinctly of leather and gun oil. He didn't speak at all as he drove, taking random turns through Brooklyn's bewildering maze of streets, constantly checking the mirrors to see if they were being followed. Where are we going? Alina finally asked, breaking the tense silence. Somewhere we can actually talk without being interrupted. He turned down a narrow, poorly lit street lined with shuttered warehouses, the type of place where people mysteriously disappeared without a trace. I need you to fully understand exactly what you're walking into. He parked behind an old brick building that looked like it hadn't been used in decades. Dante killed the engine but didn't move to get out of the car. In the sudden, oppressive silence, Alina could clearly hear the frantic thumping of her own heart. Here's the stark truth, Dante said, turning in his seat to face her, his expression grim. The Valda cartel now thinks you're valuable leverage against me. That means they'll try to take you, not kill you outright. Killing you would be wasteful. They'll grab you, hold you, use you to try and make me do exactly what they want, or maybe trade you for something that they desperately need, like valuable territory or crucial product information. His voice was almost matter-of-fact, clinical. Or they'll simply hurt you brutally to send a very clear message to the Mendoza syndicate, to show them that we're vulnerable. Alina felt an icy chill creep over her. You're deliberately trying to scare me. Yes. he said, his voice unwavering. He didn't apologize for it, not even slightly. Because you need to be scared. You desperately need to understand that this situation is nothing like your obsessed ex. There's no restraining order that's going to help you here. No simply running to a different apartment. These are the kind of people who make witnesses disappear without a trace and casually bury bodies in concrete construction sites. Then why are you even helping me? The question came out far sharper and more accusing than she'd intended. If I'm such a liability, why not just walk away and be done with it? Dante was quiet for a long moment, his gaze fixed on something out beyond the windshield. Because I'm the one who put you in this situation in the first place. You grabbed my arm, yes, but I could have easily pushed you away. I could have ignored you completely, but I didn't. He finally looked back at her, his dark eyes filled with a strange, unreadable emotion. That makes you my responsibility, whether I like it or not. I don't want to be anyone's responsibility, she said, the words laced with a bitterness that surprised even her. Too bad, he said, his tone unapologetic. That's exactly what you are now. He pulled out his phone and showed her a recent text message, the screen displaying her name, a detailed description, and even the address of her tiny studio apartment. This went out about an hour ago. Valda street dealers, their runners, their scouts. They're all actively looking for you right now, some for money, some simply for respect within the organization. Do you understand what I'm saying? She understood perfectly. She was now being actively hunted. So what do I do now? Her voice sounded unnaturally small and weak, even to her own ears. You have two basic choices as I see it, Dante said, his gaze unwavering. First choice, I give you $5,000 in untraceable cash, a burner phone, and a significant head start. You leave New York tonight immediately. You go somewhere completely random, somewhere nobody would ever expect you to be. Iowa, Montana, maybe even Florida. It honestly doesn't matter. You change your name, dye your hair, and start over completely, erasing every single trace of your old life. And you never come back. Never contact anyone from your old life, no matter what. Eventually, maybe, just maybe, the Valda cartel loses interest and moves on to other things. He paused, letting the stark reality of that option sink in. And the second choice is, you stay with me under my constant protection. I keep you as safe as I possibly can while I figure out the best way to end this whole situation. Either by somehow convincing the Valdas that you're utterly worthless to them, or by making it far too costly for them to keep coming after you. Alina laughed bitterly, the sound devoid of any real humor. Those aren't really choices at all. The first one effectively means that I lose everything. My entire life, my identity, She stopped abruptly, realizing the pathetic truth. What did she actually have to lose? A barely paying waitressing job? A cramped studio apartment she'd only lived in for 3 weeks? I know it's not fair, Dante said quietly, his voice tinged with something that sounded almost like regret. Nothing about this entire situation is fair. She felt tears burning hotly behind her eyes, but she stubbornly refused to let them fall. I spent 3 long, miserable years effectively trapped with Ethan. I finally managed to get away from him, and now I'm essentially trapped all over again, just with a different set of dangerous people. It's not the same, though, is it? Isn't it? She shot back, her voice rising slightly. You're telling me I have to hide, that I have to depend on someone else for my very survival, that I have to completely give up any semblance of control over my own life. She turned to him, her expression pleading. How is that even remotely different? Dante's jaw tightened, his expression hardening. Because I'm not going to manipulate you. I'm not going to isolate you from your friends and family or gaslight you into questioning your own sanity or make you doubt your own perception of reality. I'm telling you the blunt, unvarnished truth, even though it's undeniably ugly and terrifying. And when this is finally over, if you somehow manage to survive, you can walk away from me without looking back, and I won't even try to stop you. If I survive, Alina repeated, the words echoing hollowly in the confined space of the SUV. Yeah, he said bluntly. He didn't attempt to sugarcoat the grim reality of their situation. She looked out the window at the empty, desolate street, at the looming dark warehouses, at the vast, indifferent city that had seemed so full of endless possibility just this morning. She thought about running, getting on the next bus out of town with her $900, and disappearing into America's vast anonymity. Starting over with absolutely nothing, constantly looking over her shoulder, always wondering if they'd somehow found her, where she could stay. Trust this dangerous stranger, who had already saved her life twice, to somehow protect her from something as terrifying as a ruthless cartel. "Why should I believe that you'll actually keep me safe?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper. "You're just one person. They're an entire organization. Because the Mendoza Syndicate simply doesn't allow anyone to threaten what's ours," Dante said, his voice resonating with a chilling conviction. "And I just effectively claimed you as mine, even if it was completely accidental. That means the full weight and power of our organization will come down on anyone who even tries to touch you. The Valda cartel knows that. It's precisely why they haven't moved yet. They're currently calculating whether or not you're actually worth starting a full-scale war over." "And are they right?" she asked, holding her breath. "Would there actually be a war?" "If they take you," Dante said, meeting her gaze directly, his dark eyes unwavering. Yes, the absolute certainty in his voice should have been frightening, and in some ways it was. But it was also strangely, inexplicably reassuring. At least someone, even this dangerous stranger, was actually willing to fight for her, even if the convoluted reasons were all tangled up in pride and reputation and the ruthless politics of organized crime. "If I stay," Alina said slowly, testing the words on her tongue. "What does that actually look like, day to day?" "I take you somewhere safe, somewhere undisclosed. You stay there until this whole situation is completely resolved, one way or another. You don't leave that location without me, under any circumstances. You don't contact anyone from your old life, not even your best friend. And you do exactly what I say when I say it, without question. Are we completely clear on that? So, I'm essentially a prisoner. You're being protected." Dante corrected her sharply, his voice brooking no argument. "There's a significant difference, Alina." Alina wasn't entirely sure that there actually was. She looked out the rain-streaked window at the dark, empty street, the looming warehouses, the city that had seemed so full of endless possibilities just this very morning. She thought about running, getting on a bus with her paltry $900, and disappearing into America's vast, indifferent anonymity. Starting over again with absolutely nothing, constantly looking over her shoulder, always wondering if they'd found her, where she could stay. Trust this dangerous stranger, who had already saved her life twice tonight, to somehow protect her from something as terrifying as a ruthless cartel. "Why should I believe you'll keep me safe?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper. "You're just one person. They're an organization. Because the Mendoza Syndicate doesn't let anyone threaten what's ours," Dante said, his voice as hard as steel. "And I just claimed you as mine accidentally, but I did it. That means the full weight of our organization will come down on anyone who touches you. The Valda cartel knows that. That's why they haven't moved yet. They're calculating whether you're worth starting a war over." "And are they right? Would there be a war?" "If they take you," Dante said, meeting her eyes. Yes, the certainty in his voice should have been frightening. Instead, it was strangely reassuring. At least someone was willing to fight for her, even if the reasons were tangled up in pride and reputation and criminal politics. "If I stay," Alina said slowly, "what does that look like?" "I take you somewhere safe. You stay there until this is resolved. You don't leave without me. You don't contact anyone from your old life. You do exactly what I say when I say it. So, I'm a prisoner. You're protected," Dante corrected. "There's a difference." Alina wasn't sure there was. She was caught. But what other choice did she have? To run meant isolation and the constant fear of being hunted down. To stay meant being trapped, but at least she would be alive. "How long?" she questioned. "I don't know." At least he was being honest with her. She inhaled deeply and stated, "Okay, I'll stay." Dante drove them to a neighborhood that was unfamiliar to Alina. It was a mix of industrial buildings and tightly packed row houses. The walls were covered in graffiti, illuminated by the orange glow of sodium streetlights. He pulled into an alleyway next to a 3-story brick building that had a faded sign that read, Vega's Boxing Gym. "This is the safe house?" Alina asked, her voice filled with skepticism. "The apartment above it is." He put the car in park and grabbed her backpack from the back seat. "The gym provides cover. There are a lot of people coming and going all the time. Plus, it allows me to keep a close eye on things." They entered through a side door that required 2 different keys. The air inside was thick with the smells of sweat and leather. The gym was dimly lit, with only the emergency exit lights casting a red glow over everything. "This way," Dante said, guiding her past a boxing ring, heavy bags that hung like lifeless bodies, and weight racks that were organized with military precision. Despite the building's worn exterior, everything inside was clean and well-maintained. They climbed a narrow staircase to the 2nd floor, then another to the 3rd. Dante unlocked a heavy steel door, the kind that wouldn't break easily, and gestured for her to enter. The apartment was a surprise to her. She had expected something bare and masculine, maybe even dirty. Instead, it was unexpectedly comfortable. Exposed brick walls, worn leather furniture, and bookshelves filled with everything from philosophy to true crime. A small kitchen with clean countertops. 2 doors that led to what she assumed were the bedroom and bathroom. "You live here?" she asked. "Sometimes. I have another place, but this one's more secure," he explained, placing her backpack on the couch. "The bedroom is through there. Bathrooms attached. There's food in the fridge. Help yourself to whatever. Just don't open the windows, don't go out on the fire escape, and don't answer the door for anyone." "What are you going to do?" she inquired. "Make some calls and figure out our next move." He pulled out his phone, then paused. "You should get some sleep. It's almost 3 o'clock in the morning." Alina hadn't realized how exhausted she was until he mentioned it. The adrenaline was wearing off, leaving her feeling hollow and shaky. "Will you be here?" The question came out more vulnerable than she had intended. "On the couch. I'm a light sleeper. You'll be safe." She wanted to argue, to insist that she didn't need a babysitter. But the truth was that she felt safer with him nearby, even if he was the reason she needed protection in the first place. The bedroom was simple, with a queen-sized bed with dark sheets, a dresser, and blackout curtains. She used the bathroom, washed her face, and lay down fully clothed on top of the covers. Through the door, she could hear Dante's low voice as he made his calls, speaking in Spanish that she couldn't understand. Despite her exhaustion, sleep wouldn't come. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Ethan's face. The Valdes cartel scouts that Dante had mentioned, imagined hands grabbing her in the dark. She had escaped one trap only to fall into another. Eventually, she gave up and returned to the living room. Dante was sitting on the couch, phone in hand, looking tired in a way that made him seem almost human. "Can't sleep?" he asked. "Can't stop thinking?" She sat in the armchair across from him. "Did you find anything out?" "Some." He set his phone down. "The Valdes cartel is definitely interested, but they're not moving yet. They want to confirm that you're actually important to me before they commit resources." "How do they confirm that?" she asked. "They watch. They wait. They test." He rubbed his face. "Meanwhile, your ex is still making noise, calling around, asking questions. He's becoming a problem." "Can you make him stop?" she asked. "I can try, but right now he's not my priority. Keeping you alive is." The bluntness of it hit her again. This was real. This was her life now. "Tell me about the gym," she said, changing the subject. "You actually run a boxing gym?" Dante looked surprised by the question. "Yeah, I have for 6 years. Seems like an odd hobby for a... what did you call it? An enforcer." "It's not a hobby." His voice carried an edge of defensiveness. "It's legitimate. I teach kids from the neighborhood. Keep them off the streets. Give them structure, discipline. Some of them turn into decent fighters. Most just learn how to protect themselves." "Kids," Alina repeated. "You work for a crime syndicate, but you teach kids to box." The two aren't mutually exclusive. He stood and walked to the window, careful to stay to the side, where he couldn't be seen from outside. Most of these kids come from nothing. Broken homes, no fathers, mothers working 3 jobs. The streets will eat them alive if someone doesn't give them an alternative. And that someone is you, me and a few other coaches. But yeah, he was quiet for a moment. I grew up in this neighborhood. I know what it's like to have nothing, to feel like crime is your only option. If I can give some kid a different path, I do it. It was the most he had said about himself since they had met. Alina studied him. This man who had protected her without question, who had dragged her into danger, who apparently spent his days teaching children and his nights doing things he wouldn't specify for a criminal organization. "You're not what I expected," she said. "Yeah? What did you expect?" "I don't know. Someone colder, more monstrous, I guess." Dante's laugh was harsh. "Give it time. You'll see the monster soon enough." "I don't think I will." He turned to look at her, something unreadable in his expression. "You should go back to bed. Tomorrow's going to be complicated." "What happens tomorrow?" she asked. "I go talk to some people. You stay here where it's safe." "Alone?" she asked. "There's security. Cameras, alarms, people I trust watching the building." He must have seen something in her face because his voice softened slightly. "You'll be okay, Alina. Promise." She wanted to believe him, wanted to trust that this nightmare would end and she would walk away unharmed. But promises felt fragile in the face of cartels and violence. Still, she nodded and returned to the bedroom. This time, exhaustion won and she fell into a dreamless sleep. Dante's presence in the next room was the only thing keeping the nightmares at bay. Ethan Ward sat in his apartment, staring at his phone, the rejected call lighting up the screen for the 5th time. Alina wasn't answering. She never answered anymore. He poured another scotch, his 4th or maybe 5th, and tried to understand where everything had gone wrong. 3 years together, 3 years of him supporting her, guiding her, helping her become better. And this was how she repaid him, running into the arms of some tattooed criminal. The image of Dante Vega kept replaying in his mind. The way Ethan had instinctively stepped back, felt fear curl in his stomach. He hated that, hated feeling weak, hated that Alina had seen it. His phone buzzed. A text from his colleague Marcus read, "Dude, you still asking around about that big guy? Be careful. My cousin says he's connected to some serious people." Ethan had been making calls all night to friends, acquaintances, anyone who might know about Dante Vega and how to get Alina away from him. The responses had been universally warning him off, but that only made him more determined. She was confused, scared. Vega had manipulated her somehow, probably threatened her into going with him. Alina needed saving, and Ethan was the only one who truly understood her, truly loved her. She just couldn't see it yet. Another text, this one from a number he didn't recognize, read, "Heard you asking about Dante Vega. I might have information. Meet me." Ethan's pulse quickened. Finally, someone willing to help. He typed back, "Where?" The response came immediately, "Rossi's bar. Red Hook. 30 minutes. He should have been suspicious, should have wondered why a stranger would reach out. But desperation and alcohol had dulled his instincts. He grabbed his keys and headed out. Rossi's bar was a dive in every sense of the word. Peeling paint, neon beer signs, and the smell of stale cigarettes despite the smoking ban. Only 3 other people occupied the place. An old man nursing a beer at the bar and 2 younger guys in a corner booth. Ethan approached the booth. "You the one who texted me?" The larger of the 2 men, with a shaved head and a neck tattoo of a scorpion, gestured to the empty seat. "Sit." Ethan sat, his heart pounding. Up close, these men looked dangerous in a way his finance friends never did. Real danger, not the corporate backstabbing he was used to. "You're asking about Dante Vega," Scorpion Tattoo said. It wasn't a question. "Yes, he's got my girlfriend. I need to get her back." The 2 men exchanged glances. The second one, younger with a scar across his cheek, smiled. "Your girlfriend? That's interesting. She didn't go with him willingly." Ethan insisted. He threatened her or something. She would never. What's her name? Scorpion Tattoo interrupted. Alina. Alina Torres. Ethan pulled out his phone and showed them a photo. It was a picture of Alina at a restaurant, smiling from 6 months ago when things were still good. She's 26, works as a waitress, lived on Hoy Street until recently. Now I think Vega is hiding her somewhere. The men studied the photo with more interest than Ethan expected. And do you want her back? Scarface asked. Of course I do. I love her. Ethan's voice cracked slightly. We had a fight. She overreacted. And now this gangster has his claws in her. I just need to know where he's keeping her so I can talk to her. Make her understand. What if she doesn't want to come back? Scorpion Tattoo asked. She does. She's just confused right now. Ethan leaned forward. Look, I can pay. If you help me find her, I'll give you $5,000 cash. Another exchanged glance. We might be able to help, Scarface said slowly. But we need more information. Where does she usually go? What's her routine? Friends, family, places she feels safe. Ethan felt a surge of hope. She doesn't have much family. Her mom died 2 years ago. She has a friend named Maya Chin who lives in Queens. She used to go to this cafe in Park Slope every Sunday morning, the one with the blue awning. And before she moved, she lived at 342 Hoy Street, apartment 3B. The men were taking notes on a phone now. Any other places? Habits we should know about? She goes running sometimes. Used to anyway before I told her it wasn't safe. Ethan was talking faster now, eager to help. She likes old bookstores, especially the Strand. And there's this Italian restaurant in her old neighborhood, Gianna's. She loved their tiramisu. I took her there for our anniversary. Good, Scorpion Tattoo said. This is helpful. What about her car? Does she drive? No car. She takes the subway everywhere. I tried to buy her a car, but she said she didn't need one. The memory stung, another way she had rejected his care. Scarface stood up. We'll look into this. Give us your number. We'll contact you when we find something. Ethan rattled off his number, feeling lighter than he had in hours. Finally, people who understood. People who would help him get Alina back where she belonged. Remember, he added, she's not a criminal or anything. She's just a normal girl who got caught up in something bad. Don't hurt her. I just want to talk to her. Sure, Scorpion Tattoo said, his smile not reaching his eyes. We'll be real gentle. Ethan left the bar feeling hopeful for the first time all night. He didn't notice the two men immediately pull out their phones and start texting in rapid Spanish. He didn't understand that he had just handed over every piece of information the Valdez cartel needed to confirm Alina Torres was exactly who they thought she was. And he definitely didn't realize he had just made her infinitely more valuable and more vulnerable than she had been an hour ago. Alina woke to sunlight streaming through the edges of the blackout curtains and the sound of voices below. For a confused moment, she forgot where she was. Then it all came rushing back. Ethan, the club, Dante, the cartel. She checked her phone. She had slept for almost 9 hours. The voices grew louder, rhythmic counting, the thud of fists against leather. The gym was open. She showered quickly, borrowed one of Dante's t-shirts since hers was dirty, and ventured out of the bedroom. Dante was at the small kitchen table, laptop open, phone pressed to his ear. He acknowledged her with a nod but continued his conversation in Spanish. She caught the urgency in his tone, even if she couldn't understand the words. He hung up as she poured herself a cup of coffee. Morning, he said, though his expression was grim. What's wrong? She asked. Your ex met with Valdez cartel members last night. Gave them everything. Your full name, old addresses, habits, friends' names. He thinks he hired private investigators to find you. Dante's jaw was tight. He gave them a roadmap. Alina's coffee cup trembled in her hand. He wouldn't. Ethan's not violent. He wouldn't work with criminals. He doesn't know their cartel, Dante interrupted. He thinks they're just street guys who can track you down. But he handed them exactly what they needed to confirm you're real, that you matter. You're not just some random girl anymore. You're a verified target. What does that mean? She asked. Before he could answer, his phone buzzed. He read the message and swore viciously. Get dressed. Real clothes. Shoes you can run in. Why? What's happening? She asked. They're moving now. He was already at the door, pulling a gun from somewhere she hadn't seen. Stay in the apartment. Lock the door behind me. Don't open it for anyone but me. Dante. Now Alina. She ran to the bedroom, heart hammering, pulled on her jeans, her sneakers, and stuffed her mother's bracelet in her pocket. Through the floor, she heard the gym go suddenly quiet, then shouting, then gunshots. The sound was nothing like in movies, sharper, louder, terrifyingly real. Alina dropped to the floor instinctively, crawling toward the bedroom door. More shots, breaking glass, men yelling in Spanish and English. The steel door to the apartment burst open. Dante backed through it, gun raised, firing down the stairwell. Blood streaked his arm. We're leaving. Fire escape now. You said don't go on the fire escape, she protested. That was before they came through the front. He grabbed her hand, pulling her toward the window. Footsteps pounded up the stairs. He shoved the window open and pushed her through onto the metal grating. The November air bit at her face. Below, she could see the alley 3 stories down. Climb, Dante ordered, firing back through the window. The returning gunfire was deafening. Alina's hands shook as she grabbed the ladder, her feet finding the rungs, moving down as fast as she dared. Dante was right behind her, still firing periodically. She heard him grunt in pain. Keep moving. Her foot slipped on the wet metal. She caught herself and kept climbing 2 stories down, 1 story. Her feet hit the alley pavement, and Dante dropped beside her, landing hard. Run! They sprinted down the alley toward the street. Behind them, men were already on the fire escape, shouting. More gunshots echoed off the brick. Dante's SUV was blocked by 2 cars. A deliberate trap. He changed direction, pulling her toward a different street, weaving between parked vehicles, his breathing labored, his arm bleeding more heavily now. You're shot, Alina gasped. Keep running. They burst onto a busier street. People scattered, screaming. A car screeched around the corner, heading straight for them. Dante shoved Alina between 2 parked cars just as bullets shattered the windshield behind them. He returned fire, 3 controlled shots. The attacking car's tire exploded, and it swerved into a light post. This way. Dante grabbed her again, leading her through a bodega's open door. The owner shouted in Spanish. Dante responded, urgent, and the man pointed to the back. They ran through the storage room and out into another alley. A different car was waiting, older and nondescript. Dante practically threw Alina into the passenger seat and peeled out before she had even closed the door. What about the gym? She asked, breathless. The kids weren't there yet. Morning session ends at 11 a.m. He was driving one-handed, his injured arm pressed against his side, leaving blood on his shirt. They timed it for that. They knew the schedule. How? She asked. Because they've been watching for days, planning this. She looked at him, really looked at him. His face was pale under the olive skin. His jaw clenched against the pain. Blood was seeping through his fingers. You need a hospital, she said. Can't. They'll be watching hospitals. He handed her his phone. Call the number labeled Doc. Tell him we're coming in hot. She made the call, gave their location when Doc asked, and he told them where to meet. Dante, she said after hanging up, you almost died back there. Those people almost killed you because of me. Not because of you, he said through gritted teeth. Because of what you represent. There's a difference. I don't see how. He looked at her briefly, something fierce in his expression. You didn't ask for this. You didn't deserve this. None of this is your fault. But sitting in that car, watching him bleed, the city blurring past them as they ran from people who wanted to hurt her, Alina couldn't shake the feeling that she destroyed everything she touched. She had wanted freedom and instead brought violence. I'm sorry, she whispered. Save it. Dante said. We're not done yet. Doc turned out to be a 60-year-old former Army medic named Rodriguez, who operated out of a house in Staten Island. He asked no questions, just stitched Dante's arm with efficient precision while Alina sat in the corner, still shaking. Through and through, Doc said in accented English. You're lucky. A quarter inch to the left and it would have hit the artery. I'm always lucky, Dante muttered, then winced as Doc pulled the thread tight. You're always reckless, Doc corrected. This girl worth all this blood? Dante glanced at Alina. Wasn't her choice. Doc grunted, applied bandages, and handed Dante a bottle of pills. Antibiotics. Take them all and rest. That means no gunfights for at least 3 days. I'll try, Dante said. You won't, Doc said, looking at Alina. You keep an eye on him. He's stubborn. 20 minutes later, they were back in the car. Dante drove south, away from the city, his freshly bandaged arm stiff but functional. Where are we going? Alina asked. Away. The gym's compromised. My apartment's probably watched. We need distance while I figure out the next move. They drove in silence through industrial areas, past strip malls and housing developments, the city gradually giving way to suburbs and then stretches of highway bordered by bare trees. Alina watched it all blur past, feeling untethered from reality. You should have let them take me, she said finally. Dante's hands tightened on the wheel. No. You got shot protecting me. Your gym got shot up. People could have died, but they didn't this time. She turned to face him. How many more times, Dante? How many more ambushes before someone does die? Before you die? That's not going to happen. You don't know that. You can't promise that. Her voice rose. This is insane. I should turn myself into them. Tell them I'm nobody, that you don't actually care about me. They won't believe you. His voice was hard. And even if they did, do you think they'd just let you go? You've seen too much now. You're a loose end. The truth of it settled over her like a weight. There was no walking away anymore. No surrender that would set her free. I just wanted to escape Ethan, she said quietly. That's all I wanted. I know. They drove for another hour. The sun began its descent toward the horizon, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple. Dante took an exit onto back roads, narrow lanes cutting through farmland and scattered houses. Finally, he turned onto an unmarked dirt road that led to an old farmhouse set back from the main road, surrounded by empty fields. Where are we? She asked. Pennsylvania, about 90 miles from the city. It's a Mendoza property, a safe house for when things get complicated. The farmhouse was weathered but solid. White paint peeling, a sagging porch, but the windows were intact, and the door had a heavy new lock. Inside, it smelled like dust and old wood, but it was clean. Someone maintained it. There were 2 bedrooms, a kitchen with outdated appliances, and a living room with furniture covered in sheets. Dante pulled the sheets off, revealing a couch and chairs that had seen better days but were serviceable. There's a generator if the power's out, he said, checking the kitchen. Canned food in the pantry. We should be good for a few days at least. And then what? She asked. Then I get word to the Mendoza leadership about what happened. We respond. We end this. He was moving stiffly, the pain clearly bothering him despite the medication. Sit down, Alina said. You need to rest. I need to make calls. You need to sit down before you pass out. She pointed to the couch. 5 minutes, then you can save the world. He studied her for a moment, then complied, sinking onto the couch with a barely suppressed groan. Alina found a glass, filled it with water from the tap, and brought it to him along with the antibiotic pills. Thank you, he said, taking them. She sat in the chair across from him. The farmhouse was quiet except for the wind rattling the windows. The adrenaline that had carried her through the day was finally fading, leaving exhaustion in its wake. Can I ask you something? She said. Yeah. Why did you really help me? That first night in the club, you didn't know who I was, what I was running from. You could have ignored me, but you didn't. Dante was quiet for a long moment, staring at his bandaged arm. "You look terrified," he finally said. "Really terrified. Not the fake kind people use to manipulate you, but genuine fear." He looked up at her. "I've spent most of my life around predators. I know what they look like, and I saw one chasing you." "So you protected me?" she asked. "Yeah, even though it cost you everything." "Not everything." His voice was soft. "Not yet." Alina felt something shift in her chest. A crack in the walls she had built around herself during 3 years with Ethan. This dangerous man, who barely knew her, had risked his life twice now without hesitation, had bled for her, while Ethan, who claimed to love her, had sold her out to monsters. "I don't know how to repay you," she said. "You don't have to. That's not how this works." "Then how does it work?" Dante smiled slightly, tired. "I don't know. I've never done this before." Outside, the sun finally set, plunging the farmhouse into darkness. Dante located some candles and a battery-operated lantern. They ate canned soup, warmed up on the gas stove, while sitting at a kitchen table that was scarred from decades of use. For the first time since that night at the club, Alina felt something that felt almost like peace. The danger was still out there, lurking just beyond the walls of the farmhouse. But in that moment, in that quiet space, she could almost breathe normally. The first couple of days at the farmhouse passed in a strange kind of limbo. Dante was constantly on the phone, speaking in rapid-fire Spanish, and his frustration seemed to grow with each conversation. Alina tried to make herself useful by cooking what little food they had, keeping the place clean, doing anything to feel like less of a burden. On the third night, she found Dante out on the porch, despite the cold, staring out at the dark fields. "You should be resting," she said, wrapping a blanket around her shoulders as she joined him. "Can't sleep." He had a cigarette between his fingers, already halfway burned. "Keep thinking about the gym. The kids who train there, they keep asking when it'll reopen. Will it even reopen eventually, once we clean up all the damage? And convince parents it's safe again, if they even come back at all." The weight in his voice made her chest ache. "I'm sorry. Stop apologizing." He didn't sound angry, just weary. "I knew the risks when I got into this life." "Did you?" She sat down on the porch steps. "Know the risks? I mean, when you first started." Dante was quiet for a moment. "I was 15 when the Mendoza syndicate recruited me. My father was dead. My mother was working herself to death trying to feed 4 kids. My younger brother, Miguel, needed medicine that we couldn't afford. My sisters were 8 and 10, wearing shoes that had holes in them." He flicked ash from the cigarette, his eyes distant. "A Mendoza lieutenant saw me fighting in the street. Some older kids were trying to shake me down for my lunch money. I won. He offered me a job. $500 to stand on a corner and watch for cops. Simple." Dante laughed, but without any humor. "Easiest money I'd ever seen, so I said yes." "And you couldn't get out?" Alina guessed. "Didn't want to at first. The money was good. Miguel got his medicine. My sisters got new shoes, new clothes. My mother could work 1 job instead of 3. I thought I was saving my family." He stubbed out the cigarette. "By the time I realized what I'd actually done, traded my soul for cash, I was too deep, too valuable, too dangerous to let go." "Where are they now?" "Your family." "Miguel's in college. Full scholarship. The twins, Maria and Sophia, they're in high school. Honor roll students. My mother runs a small restaurant in Queens." His voice carried a mix of pride and pain. "They don't know the details of what I do. They think I'm just a businessman who owns a gym. I keep it that way." "They're safe because of you," Alina said softly. "They're safe because I became the very thing I was trying to protect them from." He turned to look at her. "That's the price. You save the people you love by damning yourself." Alina understood that kind of sacrifice more than she wanted to admit. She'd stayed with Ethan far longer than she should have because leaving felt impossible, because he'd isolated her so completely that she'd forgotten what freedom even looked like. "Can I tell you something?" she asked, referring to Ethan. "If you want to." She pulled the blanket tighter. "Everyone thought we were perfect together. He was successful, charming, attentive. In the beginning, he made me feel special, like I actually mattered. The memories tasted bitter. But then little things started changing. He didn't like my friends. Said they were bad influences. Didn't want me working late shifts. Said he worried about my safety. He always wanted to know where I was all the time. Said it was because he loved me. Classic isolation tactics, Dante said quietly. I didn't see it. Not until I was so alone that he was my entire world. She felt tears welling up in her eyes. He never hit me. Never even raised his voice much. But he made me doubt everything. My memories, my perceptions, my worth. By the end, I believed that I was the problem, that I was ungrateful, crazy, impossible to love. You're not, Dante said firmly. None of that was true. I know that now, but it took so long to see it. She wiped her eyes. The night I ran, I'd finally saved enough money to leave. I was so scared he'd find out, that he'd stop me. When I saw his car parked outside my new apartment, I thought I'd never escape, that he'd control me forever. But you did escape, even if it was into worse danger. Different danger, Dante corrected. But you're not controlled anymore. You're not isolated. And you're not doubting reality. You're seeing it clearly, probably for the first time in years. She looked at him. This man who'd killed people, who worked for criminals, who lived in violence, but who also taught kids to box, protected his family, and had risked everything for a stranger. You're a good person, she said. Despite everything, you're good. Don't make me into something I'm not. Alina, I'm not. I'm just seeing what's there. She stood up, the blanket falling from her shoulders. You could have let them take me. Could have walked away at any point. But you didn't. That means something. Dante stood too, towering over her in the darkness. You don't know what I've done. The people I've hurt. You're right. I don't. She held his gaze. But I know what you've done for me. I know you got shot protecting someone you barely know. I know you're more worried about your gym kids than your own injuries. That tells me who you really are. He was close now, close enough that she could feel the warmth radiating off him, despite the cold air. His injured arm hung at his side, but his good hand came up slowly, carefully, as if asking permission. When she didn't move away, his fingers brushed her cheek. You should go inside, he said, his voice rough. It's too cold out here. But neither of them moved. The space between them felt charged, full of things neither of them knew how to say. Two people running from their pasts, trapped in an impossible present, uncertain if they even had a future. Finally, Alina stepped back. Good night, Dante. Good night. She went inside, but she felt his eyes on her until she closed the bedroom door. Alina woke to Dante's voice raised in anger, speaking rapid Spanish into his phone. Dawn light filtered through the bedroom curtains. She dressed quickly and found him pacing in the kitchen, his face dark with fury. He ended the call and slammed his phone down on the counter. What happened? She asked. Intel came through about your ex. Dante's voice was tight with controlled rage. He's been in contact with the Valdez cartel for the past week. Not just giving them information, but actively coordinating with them. Alina felt her stomach drop. What do you mean, coordinating? He's arranged a meeting for tomorrow night at the old pier on the Hudson River. He's agreed to deliver you to them personally, in exchange for $50,000. The words didn't make sense at first. Deliver me? But I'm not with him anymore. How would he? He doesn't have you. Not yet. Dante pulled something up on his phone and showed her text messages. He's been telling them he can convince you to meet him, that you still love him, that you'll come if he says the right things. He set the meet for 10 p.m. tomorrow. He thinks you'll show up alone and he'll hand you over to the cartel. Alina felt sick. He's selling me. Yeah. For money. Yeah. She sat down heavily. All those years Ethan had claimed to love her, had said he couldn't live without her, had insisted that everything he did was for her own good, and now he was literally selling her to criminals. The good news, Dante continued, is that we know their plan. The Valdez cartel thinks they're getting you gift-wrapped. They're bringing minimal security because they think it's a simple pickup. And the bad news? The bad news is that Ethan's involvement has given them confirmation that you're valuable. Even if we stop this meeting, they'll keep coming. They won't stop until they have you, or until the cost becomes too high. Alina looked up at him. So what do? Dante sat down across from her, his expression serious. We have options. Option 1, you disappear. I arrange new identity papers, set you up somewhere far away with enough money to start over. You never come back to New York. And option 2, we end this tomorrow night. He leaned forward. We let the meeting happen, but on our terms. The Mendoza syndicate intercepts the handoff. We catch Ethan in the act of collaborating with the Valdez cartel. Get evidence, hand him over to the authorities, and we make it clear to Valdez that you're not worth a war. How do we make that clear? By showing strength. By proving that taking you means starting something they can't finish. His eyes were hard. The Mendoza syndicate brings overwhelming force. We don't just stop the meeting, we send a message. Alina processed this. So I'd be there at the pier. You'd be bait, protected bait. I'd have 20 armed men within 50 yards. But yes, you'd need to be visible for the trap to work. And Ethan gets arrested. Conspiracy to kidnap. Working with organized crime. He'll go to prison for years. Maybe not as many as he deserves. But enough. The thought of Ethan in prison should have felt like justice. Instead, it just felt hollow. 3 years of her life wasted on someone who'd valued her so little that he'd sold her to criminals. There's a third option, Dante said quietly. You run and I end this myself. Without you, I meet Ethan, deal with the cartel, finish it. You'd be safe either way. But you never get closure, never get to face him, never get to tell him exactly what he did to you. Dante's voice was gentle. Sometimes victims need that. Need to look their abuser in the eye and take their power back. Alina thought about the 3 years of manipulation, the isolation, the gaslighting, the way Ethan had made her doubt her own sanity. And now this, the ultimate betrayal, selling her like property. If I run, I'm still running, she said slowly. Still letting him control my life. Still letting fear make my decisions. Running is smart sometimes. Maybe, but I'm tired of running. Tired of being afraid. She met Dante's eyes. I want to finish this. I want him to see that he doesn't own me, that he never did. It'll be dangerous. Even with protection, things can go wrong. Things have already gone wrong. At least this way, I'm choosing what happens next. She felt something fierce kindle in her chest. For 3 years, Ethan made every choice for me. What I wore, who I saw, how I spent my time. This is my chance to choose for myself. Dante studied her for a long moment. You're sure? I'm sure. He nodded slowly. Okay, then we do this your way. But you follow my instructions exactly. When I say run, you run. When I say get down, you get down. Agreed. Agreed. And Alina. His voice carried a weight that she couldn't identify. Whatever happens tomorrow night, I'll keep you safe. I promise you that. She wanted to believe him. Wanted to trust that this plan would work, that she'd walk away unharmed, that justice would actually prevail. But she'd learned the hard way that promises were fragile things. Still, looking at Dante, this man who'd bled for her, who'd upended his life to protect her, she found herself believing. I trust you, she said. The words felt like a leap of faith, like stepping off a cliff and hoping someone would catch her. Dante's expression softened. Then let's end this. They spent the rest of the day planning. Dante made calls, coordinated with the Mendoza syndicate, and mapped out the pier location. Alina listened, learned, and prepared herself for what was coming. Tomorrow night, she'd face Ethan one final time. And this time, she wouldn't be the one running. The old pier jutted out into the Hudson River like a broken finger, surrounded by abandoned warehouses and rusted shipping containers. The November wind carried the smell of salt water and industrial decay. At 9:45 p.m., the area was deserted except for the scattered yellow lights from distant buildings across the water. Alina stood near the edge of the pier, exactly where Dante had positioned her. She wore a wire under her jacket, Dante's insurance that everything would be recorded. Around her, hidden in the shadows and containers, 20 Mendoza syndicate members waited. Dante was closest, crouched behind a shipping crate 15 yards away, his gun ready. You okay? His voice came through the tiny earpiece hidden beneath her hair. No, she whispered, but I'm ready. At 9:58, Headlights appeared. Silver Lexus. Ethan parked 50 yards from the pier and got out, adjusting his coat, checking his phone. He looked nervous but excited, like he was about to close a business deal. Alina's hands clenched into fists. Ethan saw her, and his face lit up. "Alina, you came." He started walking toward her, arms half open as if expecting a hug. "I knew you would. I knew deep down you still." "Stop," she said, her voice carrying across the empty space. "Don't come any closer." He paused, confusion crossing his features. "What's wrong? I thought we could talk. Really talk, without all the drama and that criminal influencing you." "You mean Dante Vega? The man you've been asking about all week?" Alina's voice was steady, despite her racing heart. "The man you told the Valdez cartel about?" Ethan's expression faltered. "I don't know what you're talking about. I just hired some people to help me find you." "You hired cartel members, Ethan. You gave them my information, my routines, my friends' addresses." She took a step toward him. "And you arranged to hand me over to them tonight for $50,000. That's not. You don't understand." His face went pale. "They told me they were private investigators. I was just trying to save you from that gangster." "Don't lie to me." Her voice cracked. "Not anymore. I have the text messages. I have recordings. I know exactly what you did." "Alina, please. You sold me." The words came out raw. "You claimed you loved me for 3 years. Said you couldn't live without me. And the moment you couldn't control me anymore, you sold me to criminals." "It wasn't like that." Ethan's desperation was rising. "I was getting you back. They were going to take you away from Vega and bring you back to me. I was saving you." "Saving me?" Alina laughed bitterly. "You destroyed me, Ethan. 3 years of making me doubt myself, isolating me from everyone, making me believe I was the problem. And when I finally escaped, you stalked me, found my new apartment. And when that wasn't enough, you try to have me kidnapped because I love you." "No," she shook her head. "Love doesn't look like this. Love doesn't control and manipulate and sell someone to criminals. That's not love, Ethan. That's ownership. And I'm not your property." Movement in the shadows. 3 SUVs rolled up silently, their doors opening. Men got out. Valdez cartel members, heavily armed. They'd arrived early, suspicious. "Stay calm," Dante's voice said in her ear. "We've got you." The lead cartel member, the one with the scorpion tattoo from the bar, approached with a weapon drawn. "Ethan Ward?" Ethan turned, relief flooding his face. Yes, that's me. This is her, Alina Torres. Just like I promised. Now, about my money." "Change of plans," the scorpion tattoo said. "We're taking you both." Ethan's relief turned to confusion. "What? No, we had a deal. You're a liability. You talk too much." No. The man gestured to his companions. "Grab them." That's when Dante stood up, gun aimed. "I don't think so." All around the pier, Mendoza syndicate members emerged from hiding, weapons raised. They outnumbered the Valdez crew 3-1. Laser sights painted red dots across the cartel members' chests. The scorpion tattoo cursed in Spanish. "Vega, drop your weapons," Dante ordered. "You're surrounded. There's no way out that doesn't end with you dead." For a tense moment, no one moved. Then, slowly, the Valdez members lowered their guns. "Smart choice," Dante said. He nodded toward Alina. "She's nobody. Not valuable, not important, not worth the war you'd start by taking her. You've been played by him." Dante gestured to Ethan. "He's been feeding you information, making her seem important, setting this whole thing up. All because he couldn't handle rejection." Police sirens wailed in the distance, getting closer. "We called NYPD 10 minutes ago," Dante continued. "Gave them an anonymous tip about cartel activity at this pier. They're coming. You can stay and get arrested, or you can leave now. And we forget this ever happened. Your choice." The scorpion tattoo looked at Alina, then at Ethan, and then back to Dante. "This isn't over." "Yes, it is," Dante said quietly. "Unless you want to start a war over nothing." The Valdez members retreated to their vehicles and drove off, disappearing into the night just as police lights appeared in the distance. Ethan started toward his car, but 2 Mendoza members blocked his path. "You're staying," Dante said. "The police are getting an anonymous tip about you, too. Conspiracy to kidnap. Working with organized crime. They'll find the text messages on your phone, the wire transfer you set up for the $50,000, all of it." "You can't do this." Ethan's voice rose to a shout. "Alina, tell them. Tell them you'll come back to me, and this all goes away, please." Alina walked toward him slowly. Up close. She could see the desperation in his eyes. The same desperation that had kept her trapped for 3 years. "I hope prison teaches you something," she said quietly. "Teaches you that people aren't possessions. That love isn't control. That no means no." "Alina." "Goodbye, Ethan." Police cars pulled onto the pier. Officers emerged, weapons drawn, ordering everyone to freeze. The Mendoza members had already vanished into the shadows like ghosts. Only Ethan remained, standing alone, finally facing the consequences of his actions. Dante appeared at Alina's side. "Time to go." They walked away together as police swarmed Ethan. She heard him shouting her name, heard the protests die as handcuffs clicked shut. She didn't look back. 3 weeks later, Alina stood in front of Vega's boxing gym, watching workers replace the shattered front windows. The bullet holes in the brick had been patched. Fresh paint covered the bloodstains. It almost looked normal again. "Kids start coming back next week," Dante said, coming up beside her with 2 coffee cups. He handed her one. "Parents needed time to feel safe again. Can't blame them." "Will they come back?" "Most of them. The ones who understand that what happened wasn't random violence. It was targeted. And it's over now." Over. The word felt strange. Ethan was awaiting trial, facing 15 years for conspiracy and attempted kidnapping. The Valdez cartel had pulled back after the pier incident, deciding Alina wasn't worth the escalation. The Mendoza syndicate had made it clear that further attempts would trigger a full-scale war. For the first time in months, Alina wasn't looking over her shoulder. "I got the apartment," she said. "The one in Park Slope I was looking at. They approved my application." Dante nodded, his expression carefully neutral. "That's good. Safe neighborhood. Close to the subway. And I start the new job Monday. The bookstore on 5th Avenue. They hired me as assistant manager. You'll be good at that. You're organized, good with people." They stood in silence, watching the workers. Everything was wrapping up. The danger had passed. Ethan was locked away. Her new life was beginning. The life she'd been fighting for since that night she ran from her apartment. So why did it feel so hollow? "You don't owe me anything," Dante said quietly, as if reading her thoughts. "You know that, right? You can walk away. Start fresh. No one would blame you. I know you've got your freedom back, your life. That's what matters." Alina took a sip of coffee, buying time. The truth was complicated. The past 3 weeks, at the farmhouse, then in a safe Mendoza apartment, she'd gotten to know Dante beyond the violence and danger. She'd seen him laugh at terrible jokes, watched him cook breakfast with surprising skill, and listened to him talk about his dreams for the gym, maybe expanding it, hiring more coaches and reaching more kids. She'd seen the man beneath the enforcer, and she'd started to fall for him. "What if I don't want to walk away?" she asked. Dante turned to look at her, surprise flickering across his face. "Alina, I know what you're going to say, that I'm confused, that this is just trauma bonding, that I don't really know what I want." She set down her coffee. "But I've spent 3 years with someone who told me what to think and feel. I'm not confused anymore. I know exactly what I'm feeling. You've been through hell. You need time to heal, to figure out who you are without someone controlling you. I am healing. And part of that is choosing what I want." She stepped closer to him. "You gave me something no one else ever has. You gave me choices, real choices. Even when it would have been easier to just tell me what to do, you let me decide. At the pier, in the farmhouse, every step of the way. Because you deserved that autonomy." "Exactly. You saw me as a person, not a possession." She reached for his hand, felt him tense, but not pull away. "Ethan claimed to love me, but he wanted to own me. You've never claimed anything, and yet you're the one who actually sees me." "It's different," Dante said, his voice rough. "I'm not a good man, Alina. The things I've done, the life I lead. I know who you are. I've seen it. All of it. She squeezed his hand. And I'm not asking you to be someone different. I'm just asking if there's room in your life for me. Not because you have to protect me, not because you feel responsible, but because you want me there. Dante was quiet for a long moment, his dark eyes searching her face. You should have a normal life. Someone without blood on their hands. Someone who can give you peace. I don't want normal. I want real. She moved closer, close enough to feel the warmth of him. I want someone who sees me as an equal, who trusts me to make my own choices, who fights for me but doesn't fight for control over me. Alina, do you want me to stay? She asked directly, not because you should, not because it's logical, but because you want me to. His hand came up slowly, cupping her face with a gentleness that contradicted everything he was supposed to be. Yes, he said finally, the word torn from somewhere deep. God help me. Yes. She smiled. Then I'm staying. You're sure? I'm picking you, Dante. Plain and simple, I choose you. It's my choice, made of my own free will. There's no pressure. I'm not scared. And this isn't some last-ditch effort. It's just me choosing you. He drew her in close at that moment, resting his forehead against hers. I don't deserve any of this. I definitely don't deserve you. Maybe you don't, but you've got me all the same. He kissed her, starting softly. Then the kiss deepened. It was a kiss that tasted like coffee, like a promise, and like the start of something brand new. When they finally broke apart, Alina saw something in his eyes she hadn't ever seen before. Hope. So what happens now? She asked him. Now? Dante smiled a little. Now we take it as it comes and figure it out together, just one day at a time. No more running away. There's going to be no more running. They walked away from the gym together, holding hands. Behind them, workers were still doing repairs on the building, fixing the parts that were broken and making it whole once again. Out ahead of them, the city spread out, bathed in the afternoon sunlight, brimming with possibilities. Alina had managed to get away from one trap, only to almost fall right into another. But in the midst of it all, she'd found something she never thought she'd find. Someone who cared about her freedom just as much as she did. Someone who protected her without locking her up. She danced with a stranger to get away from her toxic ex, not knowing that he was a mafia enforcer who was about to change her life for good. But he wouldn't change it by controlling her, he'd change it by setting her free. And with that freedom, she had made the choice to stay. She wasn't staying out of fear, and she wasn't staying out of obligation. She was staying because love, that true, real love, was a choice you made over and over every single day. And today she chose him. The end.